Good morning, Charles. How are
Good
we?
morning, Dan. I'm doing great, thanks. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. Should we do take two? Should we just repeat the conversation we just had that we forgot to record?
Nah, I got other stuff I want to talk about anyway. It's
All
fine.
right, cool. Let's get into it.
I went to Typhoon Lagoon for the first time yesterday. Bought my upgraded my
That's right. I forgot.
upgraded
How was
my
it?
Disney pass. Well, it was awesome, but it was also very crowded. So we didn't end up going till like 1:30 or 2. And so finding a parking space was a problem because unlike all the other Disney parks, there were no parking attendants. Which I guess kind of after a certain point in the day, they don't have parking attendants. You're kind of just on your own. But
nobody's going to come and try and park at 1:30.
We tried the first parking lot, then the second parking lot. And we found a spot in the second parking lot, and then it looks like there's a third grass parking lot that says it's for cast members, but as crowded as it was, I think normal people guests were parking there too. But yes, a lot of people. One thing I do like is, they have like 5 or 6 different sort of beach areas where there are chairs set up. And right as you're walking into the park, there's a sign that says which areas are full and which areas still have chairs available. So that's kind of nice. You don't waste your time.
That's one thing I absolutely appreciate about Disney is they do think of the little things, including, when you're parking in decks like Disney Springs, they've got the overhead lights showing you which spots are available.
Yes.
It really reduces the agitation that you have coming into any type of, I don't understand why most companies don't think about this, because if you then have a difficult time getting to the event, you are already walking with bad attitude. And that happened to me last week at the Live Golf tournament in Orlando, where the parking was the exact opposite. You were parked literally in a dirt, literally it was like the desert because it was just dirt everywhere. 30 minutes walk to get to just the gates. And through the dirt too, by the way. So you were completely like from the knees down, like covered in sand and dirt, and guess what? Most people wearing a lot of white when they go to the golf course, right? Not so much. Now you're brown, right? And so, and full of sand and just dirty. And it really set a bad tone. So I just wanted to interrupt you real quick and just get that off my chest. So go ahead. No, so you had to. So all right, after you parked,
I'm just thinking of the special kind of hell it would be for me where. 2 things where I get to an event and the parking situation is garbage, and it's an event where I've also either paid for the tickets or even paid for the parking before I know that the parking's garbage. So I don't feel like I could just bail on it and leave, but I also don't feel like I don't want to put up with the parking situation. So it's like, what do I do? That sounds miserable.
Yeah.
So it was, the wave pool. I forgot how awesome that wave pool is. Cause like every minute they release one giant wave instead of it being like a washing machine where the waves are constantly going. It's like completely calm. And then one 6-foot wave comes out and just mows everybody over. It's so awesome.
That's great. I love it.
And, all we really were doing, cause we got there late, they're only open till 6. So we mostly just walked around, looked at stuff, read over the park map to see where the different rides and slides and all that stuff were. Huge lazy river that goes all the way around the total property, which I'm a big fan of the lazy river.
The
food was really good too.
That brings me to the question: are we allowed to have drinks in the lazy river or not?
Oh, I didn't notice. I'm sorry. I didn't notice if people had drinks or not.
Podcast over. Done.
I will notice next time if they have if there are people with drinks in the lazy river. So you're still running around.
I am still running. I'm still running around. Yeah. Yep.
One thing I wanted to mention about Typhoon Lagoon yesterday, I was noticing my fellow guests there, and I saw a lot of guys. It's a water park, so everybody's walking around in bathing suits. I saw a lot of guys who I would think, man, that guy's in pretty good shape. I saw no guys walking around with visible abs. That reminded me how difficult this thing I'm trying to do is.
Yeah, it is not right. It is not what our bodies, I feel, we really are meant to be at that state. I mean, maybe they are just not in our food environment, in our modern food
Right.
environment. It's
That's what I was
almost
thinking.
impossible to get there. You have to really kind of go back to, in order to look like, you're looking through history books and you look at our ancestors, and a lot of tribes of humans, a lot of them are like ripped and have abs. Well,
Yeah.
they also were eating different things and probably doing a lot of physical activity at the same time. So yeah, you want to look like that, you got to act like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes sense. I mean, for the majority of human history, the problem has not been obesity. The problem has been malnourishment, so our bodies have evolved to avoid malnourishment and starvation at all costs, not to avoid obesity. So it's very easy it's way easier to be too big than it is to be too small. And
and that's to preserve. Yeah, we're built that way. Absolutely.
Yeah. Gotta stay alive long enough to pass them genes
Procreate.
on. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of physical activity, I booked another edition of the Mammoth March that I did in Orlando last year, out by UCF. There's a state park out there where you hike 20 miles in 8 hours. The Orlando one sold out this year, and I didn't really want to do the same area again anyway, because I've already done it. So in right around 4 weeks, I'm going up to Eastern Tennessee, and I'm going to do one up at a state park close to the Tennessee-North Carolina border, and do another 20 miles in 8 hours. At least that's the plan. We'll see how it goes.
Nice. That's great. That's and that's not a slow clip. I mean, you have to do a minimum of 2.5 miles an hour for 20 miles. Doing that. I've done that for 3, and that's fine. Yeah, but keeping that pace up for that's no joke.
Yeah. And it's not on sidewalks, which is what I'm used to. It's going to be on. I haven't looked at what the elevation gain is, but I mean, it's in Tennessee. Eastern Tennessee is, Appalachian. So I assume there will be some up and down. So we'll see how it goes. But the big thing for me is good shoes, which I have, comfortable shoes, and a little fanny pack or some cargo shorts with plenty of ibuprofen. Because once I start hitting around 8 miles, I start getting some aches and pains, and mostly my hips. My knees have been good to me so far, knock on wood. But ankles and hips are the things that once I start doing 10, 15, 20 miles, those start screaming at me. But the ibuprofen makes it go away completely. So at least I got that going.
Oh, good. Nice. Nice.
At least it did last year, but I'm a year older, so we'll see.
Yeah. You have a training plan scheduled for that, or you just kind of?
No, I'm mostly going to wing it. I'm going to just see how it goes. I mean, I did it last year without really training for it. I mean, I've been walking a lot, so I've got that going for me. Yeah. And I'm also probably 10 pounds lighter than I was last year when I did it. So, I'm hoping that, and you don't really get that out of breath doing 2.5 miles an hour. I mean, you get tired, your muscles kind of whine. Yeah,
I was thinking about, your joints and your legs. Right. No, cardio probably not so bad, but I would think, if your legs are aching and stuff, might be something to think about.
The big thing for me is going to be making sure that I got a 8 hours. I got to have an engaging book downloaded to my phone, or some good podcast episodes or something like that. Because just trying to do that, white knuckling it with nothing to listen to. Oof, no thanks.
Oh, no way. Not for 8 hours. No. I mean,
alone with my thoughts for 8 hours?
15 minutes.
No way.
Yeah. You better come back down.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
So that's what's going on with me. And I'm sorry, I interrupted your running update to tell you that I was doing that hike. How's that going? You have you got a 5K scheduled, or you're going to go and run in like an official one?
No, I don't have an official one yet. I
think you might want to
still just at some point, probably maybe for the next round. So this is the second round of 6 weeks of the Way Better Challenge. Basically, it's just, half a mile up to 4 miles, but the idea is it gets you ready for a 5K. So what I'm noticing between the first 6 weeks and this 6 weeks is that I am able to run a little bit faster than the previous ones. And also my heart rate is a little bit lower. So I am seeing my cardiovascular fitness improve, which is what I'm going for. So then, yeah. And, I'm on week 5. I've got my big run of the 6 weeks. It's 4 miles normally. That's the biggest one that's coming up for me tomorrow. So, that's always a little bit. That's always a little bit right. It's always a little bit, intimidating when you're used to doing, half a mile, 1 mile, maybe 2 miles, and then they have you really ramp up the mileage on the last week before the week you're going to do your 5K. So the 5K week, it's like a breeze compared to what you're doing this week. So it's, it's like 2 miles, 3 miles, 2 miles, and 4 miles this week. And then the last week it's 1, 2, 2, and 3.1. So it's kind of nice because it helps you rest for that 3.1. I just do that either, at the gym, or I do that outside here on the Cross Seminole Trail, the 3.1, and that's my 5K. And, I'm a happy camper.
Gotcha.
So, but I've been doing the run club with Kurt and Neil, and have been having a great time, meeting new people and just hearing, these amazing guys. I don't know if last time I talked about on the podcast, there's a guy doing a marathon in every state. These, some of them are really hardcore runners, but they are so, these people, and some of them are like professionals. The girl Erica who runs it basically is competing to be in the Olympics for marathon. So you wouldn't know based on, they're not like arrogant, stuck up people, like, oh, I'm this elite athlete. They don't act that way at all. They're all really like down to earth, no matter what level you're at. And it's nice. It's nice. But, it's funny because you think, oh yeah, they're, you're talking to them kind of at your level, whatever. And then you see them take off and, they finish 3 miles before you're done with one. And it kind of puts things in perspective, but it doesn't matter because everybody's having a good time running around Lake Eola, trying to avoid geese and people and couples holding hands, taking up both lanes. So, it's, it's a good time, and everybody comes together and has a nice meal afterwards. So, it's a great way to get social and do something healthy. And I got to admit, when I'm coming back from the run and I'm walking back sweaty and I'm walking by all the restaurants and people sitting outside in cafes, like drinking, and eating and stuff like that, I do feel a little bit better about myself. Cause I'm like, I'm not, I don't want, for a better term, destroying my body the way you guys are on a weekday night. I'm out here running, so I had a little bit of that yesterday to be honest with you, but it felt good. That made me feel like I'm doing the right thing. So. Yeah, no, I mean, definitely investing in yourself, feels good. And, reminding yourself that you're worth doing hard things for is a good feeling. And, I was watching Ariel chow down on her. She got a 3-pack of fish tacos at Typhoon Lagoon. Breaded fish with like slaw, like a pineapple salsa on top, and then she put some hot sauce on it. I was like, man, it's real tempting to go up to that window and get my own 3-pack of tacos because those sounds look really good. Yeah, and I was like, no, I'm gonna hold off. I'll wait till I get home and eat something that I have a little bit more control over, And the thing too, Rhett, is what the tacos taste like. You will have them again at some point. It's just not until after you've achieved your goal. That's it. Yeah. Yeah. The other day I was thinking, I saw somebody eating or telling a story or something about eating a New York slice of pizza. And unfortunately, I'm not that close to New York, so it's not easy for me to give in and have a real slice. But then I was having fond memories. Actually, I think I saw you posted a story, and your profile pic is from that amazing pizza restaurant on Orange Avenue. And I thought, oh, that lasagna or that cheesesteak pizza that they have there. Oh, my God, it's so good. Yeah. It was like, I gave myself permission. I was like, listen, give it a few days. And if you still feel like you need a slice of pizza, have a slice of pizza, and then just be prepared to work your butt off the next couple days after that to make up for it. And I'm okay with that. I think giving myself permission, it's so weird, like giving yourself permission to take a little bit of a break from a diet or even just,
we had a situation, you and I, that I hope you don't mind me talking about, where something happened. It bothered me a little bit. And I said, hey, Dan, when this happened, it bothered me. And I want you to know that it bothered me. And you didn't have to do anything. Just me telling you that it bothered me a little bit, I instantly felt 100% better. Where old Charles would just hold on to it and let the resentment build. And then the next time you did something, I'd go immediately back in time to the last thing that you did and get all pissed off about it. Where if you just let that stuff go, like give yourself permission to have a treat, give yourself permission to tell somebody they did something that bothered you, and you can just let go of that burden instead of carrying it around.
Yeah, no, that's a great example of, I've started to try to do that a little bit more myself. And instead of letting my mind build up all of these negative consequences that are imagined, that if I did say something, if I did let it go at that point and express it, that all these really bad things would happen. And then that's one of the reasons why I would keep it in and not say anything. And I would do the same thing. And I would do this with ex-girlfriends as well, is I would hold on to that and keep a little log in my mind and go, okay, and then just build up that resentment. And that's no good for anybody. I'm feeling like crap and she has no idea. And then I end up, it comes out all at once. And then, and now it's a bigger deal over something and it does nothing. Yeah. It does nothing for you, does nothing for the relationship. So just realizing the value of being able to express it at that time and do it in a healthy way, obviously. And not explode about it, but it's a lot less. I feel like I've got a lot more control by doing it right then and there, rather than having it pressure all build up and it explodes out. Right. You can, just say, hey, listen, this is kind of bothering me. So I think that's a very important point, seeing the value of that and how good that feels. And just giving yourself permission, like you said, on a diet or anything else. And it doesn't even have to mean you're going to do it. It just means, I'm allowed to. And by doing that also, it means that one, it's planned, right? So, one of the people that I used to listen to about, about diet and exercise, they would say, if you're going to have that treat, make sure you plan it in advance. And it is not something that you just go, screw it, I'm going to have it right now. If you plan it in advance, then you're in control, and then you can feel a little bit less guilty if you do indulge, and you're a lot more likely to get right back onto the diet or the track that you've been on right afterwards, because you feel like you've been in control, and rather than just failed and gave up and said, screw it, I'm just going to have that piece of pizza right now because it looks good.
Right. Yeah. And that's, the language that we even use, failed, cheating on our diet. I mean, we have all these words that are just have all these expectations and guilt built into them. So that's what stops you from, if I decide, okay, today's Friday and on Monday night, I'm going to have a piece of pizza, then whether I have the piece of pizza or I don't have the piece of pizza, I'm not going to feel like doing something bad to myself, because I'm doing the thing that I decided that I might feel like doing. And then Tuesday morning's breakfast, I'm not going to still be dealing with the guilt of eating a piece of pizza Monday night. And so it's always easier to get back on the plan when, you don't feel like you're not strong enough or not worthy enough to stick to, what you feel like you're supposed to be doing. So it's just, we put all this pressure on ourselves for all the good things that we want to do in our life. And we end up making the process and the journey so much harder than it has to be, because we want to be perfect. But hey, there's a great book called Tiny Habits that will help you out with all that stuff.
Right. Yeah. And I just like changing the word from cheat meal to treat meal. And
there you go.
Set the perspective. Now, I'm also a little leery of even using the word treat meal, because then to me, it's like, oh, I've earned this.
Right.
Rather than realizing, hey, I might be having some feelings right now that really say that, I want this piece of pizza. And a lot of times those are temporary. And so by just holding off a little bit, you may not have that. Whereas if you say, if this is a treat meal, now it's almost like, all right, this is definitely going to happen now, right? I'm earning this. True. I'm earning this. And so I don't even want to use treat meal, to be honest with you, because I feel really the most progress happens when you don't have any treat meals, cheat meals, and you stick to your program as much as possible. but keeping in mind,
and
look,
that's
perfection isn't.
no. I mean,
Perfection
that's the thing. You bring, you change your lifestyle, you change the way that you eat so that you're not strict 99% of the time and off the rails 1% of the time, or 90-10 or 80-20, whatever the ratio is. I mean, if you just feel like, hey, my identity and my lifestyle is I eat this way most of the time, and occasionally I eat this way, and then that seems to be the healthiest way for a long-term change of not riding the guilt roller coaster and the binge roller coaster when you're trying to. And the other thing, the impossible thing for me, and I'm a month into the eating pretty clean and watching all my macros and my calories and all that stuff, but it would be so nice, and I think this goes against the evolution that we talked about before about the threat of starvation. It would be so nice if at the end of the day of eating completely clean, I could feel like, man, Charles, you really treated yourself today by eating right all day long. You did every meal exactly the way you were supposed to, and what a treat you just gave yourself. But it does not feel that way. I wish it did.
No, but that's why you have to use the tiny habits approach of that celebration to say that to yourself, so you can get close to it, right? Yeah.
Yes.
That's
I wish it was natural, but I don't know that I don't know that it's ever going to be natural. That's the thing. It's
right. Yeah.
I got an email today from our fine friends at Crumble Cookies that today is free cookie day. And if you download the app and show up at their location, they give you a free cookie. And there's two things I love, Dan: free cookies, cookies and free things.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do it.
Oh boy. Wow.
I'm not going to do
it. Be proud of yourself, because I know that's definitely one of your biggest, favorite things to enjoy are crumble and those cookies. So, be proud, feel good about that. So, to be honest, so here's something to think about. By journaling every day, at the end of the day, you can actually just write out what went well. And, that's one of the things, the 5-minute journal I like. And a lot of times I've got, hey, I stuck within my calories and my macros today, and I'm happy about that. And just sometimes writing that out, I am not jumping for joy and cheerleading with pom poms for myself, but it makes me feel good, and definitely I see when I do journal, I get better sleep from Whoop. At least that's what they tell me. So
that's that makes sense. I can see how unloading that stuff from your brain onto a sheet of paper would definitely help you let it go. All right.
Help you remember those wins.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of wins, let's get back into our text for the week. We're covering the chapter in Atomic Attraction on body language, which, is so important, because there's some information in here that will blow your mind if you've never seen it before, which is the idea that 60 to 80% of the communication we have with people is through body language, not our spoken words, which, that's wild. I don't know if that includes I don't know if that includes the tone with which you're speaking, or if it's just body language, but I mean, I could see that, the tone that the way that you sound, not the things that you're saying, but the way that you sound is a huge portion of that as well.
Yeah. So, I would actually say that, to me, that implies something different. That's not body language to me.
Yeah.
At that point, that's part of the spoken word. So,
And I wonder if, I don't know that he mentions it in this chapter, but I wonder if one gender is typically going to use body language more than the other. I could see reasons why both men and women would need to prioritize body language, for threat assessment and interest. I mean, all kinds of reasons that you might think, okay, one might be using body language more than the other, but a shocking piece of research that he cites is that women initiate up to 90% of all what he calls seductions, but I would call romantic interactions. And when they initiate it, they don't do it by walking up to you and saying, "I'm interested in you." They do it in other ways that we're going to get into. But that's crazy.
Yeah, I thought 90. That number hit me hard, and I started to kind of keep my eyes open for that. And looking around, and I can, a lot of times it started to change my perspective on, maybe somebody who tends to, walk by me a little bit when they didn't need to, they could have gone a different route. And and I still question it, I'm still, well, that could mean, it doesn't necessarily mean she wants me to go over and talk to her or whatever, but maybe more often than I thought it did. And knowing me, I most likely didn't take that action.
Yeah, no, I'm sure I've missed a lot of signals. Oh, let me take a quick break to reference last week's episode. I said that I would talk to my girlfriend who spent many years in the service industry about what she would do if she was interested in a guy. Obviously, this is before we were together. She was interested in a guy that was a patron of hers. How would her behavior change, or if she had any insight on how the other women that she worked with, how their behavior would change if they were actually interested in a customer. And she said that almost never happened. Like, she couldn't even think of an example where she was working and was distracted from the duties of her job by how attracted she was to a customer. She's just like, I was not in that mind space when I was at work. When I was in work, I was being the bartender.
So my takeaway from that is that part of her job duties was basically the interactions she would have with customers. And because of that, it was not, there was no really thought or interaction that was, interest based. It was personally interest based. It was purely just like mopping the floors, or washing the dishes. This was just part of her job duties. So that's something to keep in mind, for most guys out there is, most of the time you are just part of one of their job duties. You are no different than them washing a glass.
Yeah. And I mean, she was, I remember, cause I met her initially while she was on the job. Now this is, man, how many years ago now? 13 years ago when I met her. And I was married and she was very young and I had no interest in anything, but she was very friendly and I could tell that she enjoyed interacting with her regulars, people that she saw at work, a lot. And she got positive things out of those interactions, but she said, the leap from that to, okay, now I've got to juggle both, doing my job and my, distracting level of attraction for this one customer. I've got to juggle both. She said that just didn't happen. That wasn't a thing that she dealt with.
Yeah.
And I said, well, okay, do you know if was that a thing that the other waitresses and servers and bartenders you worked with, did you notice anything that what their plan was if they were attracted to a customer? And she said, not really, but here's one thing that a guy could use to sort of gauge, rather than just assume. My advice is just assume that she's not interested in you, unless she literally writes down her number and says, call me sometime. Anything short of that, I'm going to assume there's no interest there. But one thing she said you might be able to glean a level of interest from is if the waitress or the bartender does not yet know you, meaning you haven't been there a lot. They don't know that you're a good tipper. They don't know that you're funny. They don't know anything other than how you look and that you're in their place of business. So they don't know you. You don't know them, but they are objectively giving you more time and attention than other patrons. Then maybe she's interested. Then maybe she would like you to make some sort of an introduction. But, again, for my own, I would say, just don't count on it. If you want to go ahead and take some sort of a very, and again, I recommend a very direct introduction and a direct shot so that there's no, it's not unclear what you're asking for, what you're interested in. I would say just flat out come and say, hey, I'd like to get to know you outside of work. Can I have your number? And then she gets to say yes or no. And if she says no, it's probably going to be weird next time you go back. You should be ready for the idea that it's going to be weird. maybe it won't be weird for you. And the less weird it is for
Right.
you, the less weird it'll be for her. But I could also make the case, shoot your shot, and then just, if it doesn't go well, just don't plan on going back there.
Right. Or just learn to not get attached to the outcome. Right. So just, if you shoot your shot, she says, yes, great. She says, no, great. Provided you like the food there and you want to go back. Right. Otherwise,
Right.
take your advice. Yeah. Don't even bother going back. But I think if you can detach yourself from the response, from the outcome, of course it would be nice, but that's the cherry on top. Right. I think a lot of it is,
right.
Is
but
just getting
that outcome independence, which I 100% agree, but that is just a you thing. You're not able to control how her reaction is going to be to, you asked her out, she said no to you. And so it could, even if you're just like, oh, no big deal, I ask girls out, they say yes, they say no, it's all good. Your future interactions with that server or bartender could be weird, even though you're completely outcome independent. It could be
100%.
all on her side. She might not be able to get over the fact that you asked and she had to say no. So there could be a level of weirdness there that has nothing to do with you. It just has to do with how she feels about being asked out at work and having to say no.
Yeah. And that would be another good way to kind of build your fortitude and your resilience by, handling people who are feeling uncomfortable. Right. And I think if you're good at it, I'm not saying that I am, but I think if you're good at it and you kind of maintain your frame and say, that really show that really doesn't bother you.
Right.
Eventually she might get over it, might realize, okay, he's not feeling weird about it. It's not, he's treating me like a friend. Yeah. You're not continually asking for her number or getting creepy about it or whatever. Right. I feel like, especially if she's an attractive woman, she's probably getting asked out all the time. It's probably something she's used to handling. So I think, again, like you said, it's a you problem.
Yeah. And again, here's, just going back to the text, this is where there are things that you can notice in every interaction to give you an idea of how somebody's feeling. Are they feeling good about your interaction? Are they wanting it to continue? Are they feeling, safe and free to leave or say what they want to say? Or are they feeling a little bit kind of hemmed in? Because in the chapter, there's an example of a guy who, walks up to a girl, asks if he can buy her a drink, sits down with her, and they have a conversation. And the things she is saying to him make him think like, oh, this is going great. But her body language is not that. So in this case, when the guy sits down, she grabs her purse, she crosses her arms. She doesn't turn her body to face him. She keeps her legs crossed. Her feet are pointing away. She keeps her wrists on the table. So she's chit-chatting. She's having what seems like a light and pleasant interaction, but her body language is saying, I'm not into what's going on right now. And then the interaction doesn't end up going anywhere.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, of all of those different pieces of the body language, which ones were, when you read that, were new to you, that were surprising to you?
Oh, most of them. Feet pointing away, wrists face down on the table.
That was the big one for me. Yeah. The wrists. I never had heard about that, but it lines up thinking about it logically, the way he explains it, right? By having the wrists up, you're kind of exposing, I guess, if you go back to tribal, primitive times, vulnerable part is the inside of the wrist versus the outside. Right. And the clutching of the purse too. I never thought about that, but I think that's a little extreme. That's almost kind of like, don't rob me kind of thing, right? Like holding onto that valuable. But,
I read it more like clutching the purse makes her able to get up and leave faster.
Maybe that's part of it.
I kind of looked at the wrist down as part of that too. Like if I need to push up from this table and leave in a hurry, I can do that.
Okay.
Where I think,
I'm not feeling comfortable and relaxed enough to want to stay and kind of just relax and lounge out a little bit. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Where I would say, in thinking back to interactions I've had where if a woman is, sitting straight up is one thing. I would say that's probably not a good indication that she's into what's going on. Like if she's sitting up but if she's either leaning forward while she talks to you or she's leaning back, but especially if she's talking with her hands a lot, Those seem to be indicate. So if she's leaning forward and talking with her hands or leaning back and talking with her hands, those are both preferable to, hands on the table, hands on her lap, just sitting straight up.
Yeah. So if we put the filter of fight or flight response over that, it kind of lines up how our body language changes based on how we're feeling at the moment. So she's probably feeling a little anxiety, and that fight or flight response is probably trickling in a little bit. So
right.
When that happens, our muscles kind of tense up. Like you said, you kind of get prepared to flight, right? Get prepared to run. And that could be part of that, holding onto the purse. Also, with the wrists down, want to push off away from the table, want to kind of get away. That lines up for me when I think of somebody who's a little bit anxious about a situation.
Yeah. So, the other thing that I feel is one of the most, and we'll get to it in a second, one of the most blatant signs of interest is the preening, the, touching her neck, touching her throat, rubbing her hair, things like that. Where I feel like that's one that is very clear that I've probably missed out on lots of times, because
me too.
You just, if you're mostly thinking about your own anxiety in a situation, and part of that is by going to places to quote unquote look for women that you don't actually enjoy. They don't line up with your interests. They don't line up with what you find fun, but you're there because that's where you've been told you have to go to meet girls, like clubs, like bars, like, fill in the blank. Then, rather than being able to see these signs, such as women who are holding eye contact with you, women who are smiling at you, women who respond positively to, any communication, like a nod or a wave or anything like that. If you're too busy worried about, man, I wish I wasn't here. And what am I supposed to be doing? How do I look natural? How do I look like I'm having fun when I'm not? If you're consumed with all these thoughts, then you're not going to notice any of these things. So
correct.
That's another argument to not go places where you don't want to be just because you've been told that's where you're supposed to go to meet people.
100%. Yeah, for me, I've noticed I would notice, them fixing or messing with their hair, but I never thought about, touching their neck or any other kind of preening that they might be doing, fixing things like their clothing or, whatever. And then my mind goes to, oh, well, that will be a little bit arrogant if I feel like she's doing that for me. Maybe she's just doing it for herself, right? Because something feels weird for her, or, maybe she just wants to look good in general and not necessarily say, hey, this is something that she's doing subconsciously or consciously, for me.
I can appreciate that, but I do feel like, the biology doesn't lie. And so if you're in an interaction with a woman that she wishes was over, she thinks you're a creep, she wishes you would just pick up and walk away, then she's not going to subconsciously do anything to her appearance that makes her look better to you. She's going to do things that make her look more closed off. So I don't feel like, if you're talking to a girl and she wishes you would leave, I don't think she's going to adjust her hair or move it behind her ear or anything like that.
So
I think
that made me think of something interesting. A lot of ladies who get married and get a little bit older tend to cut their hair very short, and it can work. I'm not a fan of short hair in general, but I feel like on the right person, it can work. But I think it's an exception and not the rule when it comes to short hair. And most of the men I've talked to, they do prefer, in general, longer hair on their ladies. I think it makes them look a little bit younger. But, I'm just wondering your thoughts on ladies who get, who cut their hair. My thought is it's because they, maybe they don't want to have sexual interaction with their husbands anymore for whatever reason that might be. Any thoughts from your side about that?
Yeah, I could see how that could be a factor. I mean, it's like like Freud said, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Sometimes a girl cuts her hair just because she wants to she thinks she would look nice with short hair.
Of course.
But yes, there's also, I could see that women who are not comfortable with sort of going along with what society or biology or whatever have decided. Basically, women who have gotten the message to be a beautiful feminine woman, this is what you're supposed to look like. And for whatever reason, they're like, I'm not going to sign off on this going along to get along stuff anymore. I want to do something that shakes it up a little bit, so I don't feel like I'm just doing what society or whoever has told me to do. That could be a reason that they decide to cut their hair short, or it could be, they like the lack of maintenance and upkeep, or they, have an issue with the feminine imagery of long hair that they've decided isn't working for them anymore, and they want to change it. So I don't know. It feels like there's a lot of reasons that they could adopt that, but for the most part, I would agree with you that most heterosexual men prefer women with longer hair, and I would say probably prefer women with hair of a natural color. So, which isn't me saying women shouldn't or ought not to dye their hair, but I would say, if you're single and you're interested in attracting a wide variety of men, the bright colors that don't occur in nature, to a lot of guys who are very traditional in their masculinity and what they're attracted to, are not going to be into the bright green, the bright blue hair that some women are into. And I think the opposite's true too. A lot of girls, are not going to be into a guy who's got long, bright orange hair, because that's just not, that's not what we're used to being attracted to over thousands and thousands of years. So you'll find your person. Whatever you're into, you're going to find somebody else who's into that thing too. It's just, of course, and it might be a little bit more difficult.
Might take a little bit longer depending on what it is, right?
But that's okay. I believe in the advice of, look, if there's something that you are super into that is outside of what the mainstream considers attractive, man, go into it 100%, because that is going to help you disqualify people that you would find boring or vanilla or whatever the word is. And, just embrace the lifestyle that you love and that you're into, and you'll be drawn to people, and people will be drawn to you who are into the same things that you are.
Yeah. Be confident in that choice, because if you're not, and that's for me, that's the thing I look for in anybody that, I hang out with, friends or romantically. It's confidence in what you're doing, and not, I'm doing this, but I'm constantly questioning it, or I don't feel good about it, or whatever. And because that's for me, that's not fun to be around. All it does is like stir up anxiety and stress in me and people around, that person. So, confidence goes a long way. And so, whatever that might be, just be confident about it and do it because you enjoy it. And then if you don't, then change it. If you don't feel confident in it, then change it. And that's the great thing these days is there's so much ability to change what, even the physical parts about you. If you wanted to, you could do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. The way you dress, the way you look. You can experiment with most of those things. And a lot of them, there are tons of ways that you can do that without making permanent decisions about how you're going to look for the rest of your life. So, you could just try stuff out and see how you like it. So again, I would say that, go through this chapter. I'll just go through the 6 things or 5 things that he names in order. Eye contact, number 1, number 2, smiling, number 3, communication, which, communication, I don't know, feels kind of wrapped up in some of the other one. And I'll just read this section. A lot of people put step 4, preening, before communication, but in the vast majority of cases, the man talks to the woman right after she's made eye contact or smiled at him. And I would say that is the order that is probably the safest to go in. Make eye contact with somebody. Don't look away. Don't look down at the floor. Make eye contact. And if she smiles at you, then your chances of having a positive interaction after she looks at you and smiles at you go way up. So that would usually, if you're somebody who is open to approaching women, making eye contact, getting a smile from her, that's the time to go and make eye contact or make a conversation, because
Right.
waiting for her to preen on top of those things, start touching her hair or whatever, that may or may not happen. But if you made eye contact with someone and they smiled at you, you're probably going to have a pleasant interaction, even if she ends up saying she's not interested or she has a boyfriend or whatever.
Yeah. And it only makes sense because they only know so much about you. So they're only going to give you so much information and feel only so much. They'll feel enough to give you a smile, but that, just from the way you look and are walking around doesn't necessarily mean they're going to start preening themselves, feel that
Right.
level of
Exactly.
attraction to you. And that won't happen until you actually communicate and you then escalate the amount of traction that she feels for you. And at that point, that's where you're looking. That's that indicator there is she interested in taking it to the next level based on the communication that you've had? That's where the preening comes in, and take a look for that. Right.
Yeah. And the other thing that is very important after you've, initiated that interaction and you're paying attention to the preening and her body language while you're talking to her. Step 5 is touching, whether she touches you or how she reacts to you touching her, which is always kind of that's the weirdest one. At least it's always felt weird to me because I'm not a very touchy person. And so, initiating that contact where, you touch somebody on their arm when, you're saying something to them, or when you're laughing at something she said, or she's laughing at something you said, that's been something that has always been something I've had to kind of think about doing. It doesn't just come natural to me because, again, I'm just not a big toucher. And so, that was something that in the past I had relied on, having that one drink before, or early in the interaction, early in the date, early in the whatever, where it would sort of lower my inhibitions at being a little feely, where I'm not that kind of guy. But, fortunately I'm in a relationship and I don't drink anymore, so I don't have to worry about that. But that was one of the roadblocks to me. And I would often tell, whether a date was going to go well based on whether I felt like reaching out and touching her or not. And, if I didn't feel like doing it, I was kind of like, okay, this is going to be a nice first date, but that's going to probably be the end of it. But if it was like, okay, now it's time, now it feels natural to reach out and touch her while I'm laughing at something she said, then usually the date would go on and it would be a fun date and there would probably be another date.
Yeah. And I think for women, they're very much more aware of these body signals. So the body language. So, if you are interested and you are testing and you're not sure if she's interested, that might be something to think about is as you're laughing at something, you reach over and touch her arm or on her shoulder. Let her know that, hey, you're definitely interested. And then see if she responds, see if she then touches you back and see, okay, she touched you back. Now, all right, there's at least some low level of interest and comfort there, and you can take it from there.
Yeah. And here's some other, nonverbal things that aren't exactly body language, but things that you can notice. When you're spending time around a woman, has she started wearing more different makeup or perfume? If you guys are out at some sort of a group thing, like a trivia night or a run club or something like that, does she tend to find the seat next to you when she comes, when you guys are hanging out in a group setting?
Again, that 90% of the time they are dictating the encounter, the interaction right there. That's another example of it. Yeah. It's great.
Has she started, frequenting places that you frequent? Like if you have a favorite coffee shop or a favorite bar that you visit after work and she knows that, has she started showing up there sort of spontaneously more than she used to? These are little things that, the man of low to average self-esteem would just chalk up to coincidence. But the man who's read this book or listened to us go through the book might be willing to say, okay, these are not just coincidences. These are her efforts to be around me. And that's, something you and I were talking about the other day, where if a girl is very interested in you, and she would like to go from acquaintances or friends to romantic, she will be willing to take on small inconveniences to her schedule, to her travel, to be closer to you. And so, if you guys are on the other side of town, she'll start hanging out in your side of town. If, she can't meet you right after work, she'll say, hey, after dinner, let's grab a drink around 9:30 or something. She'll make suggestions like that in a normal situation, you would think, oh, that's kind of a inconvenience. Usually I'm winding down for the night, or usually I don't hang out in that part of town because I live over in this part of town. But when a girl starts advertising that she's willing to take on some inconvenience to hang out with you, that's a pretty good indicator that she's interested in spending time with you.
Yeah. They're going to make it easy, guys. So if you ever have to question or ask, hey, you think this girl's interested? The answer is no, because it's going to be
I would say that's generally true. Yeah.
It will be obvious if she's interested. And, if it's not, and she is interested, she may not be the right one, because at this point, then, if there's been some interaction and, I think, I don't know if you want to be with somebody who is that insecure that they're going to be, kind of hiding that for so long. I don't know. That's my personal opinion. That's just not the kind of person that I'm attracted to. Somebody who's confident in themselves and is willing to be a little bit vulnerable. They will make it obvious and easy for you to understand that they are interested.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that, both men and women, the playing hard to get thing, it's not all that we've been taught. It's not all it's cracked up to be from, watching movies and rom-coms and TV shows and stuff like that. The idea of I've got to pretend like I'm completely disinterested so that they'll be more interested in me. Guys, especially, most guys either are not going to approach women because they're too intimidated and too anxious to do it, or they're not going to pursue women because rejection sucks and we don't like it. Sure. And, it's great to get to that point where, you've got that outcome independence and you've adopted this identity where I'm a guy that just walks up to women that I'm interested in and asks them out, and I ask for their number, and that's just how it goes. That's a 1% of dudes type of behavior. I mean, it'd be great if we all got there, but most of us never will. And so the idea of pursuing a woman who is interested, but she's playing hard to get because that's what she thinks she's supposed to do, it's just like most of us are just going to give up and say, nope, she's not into it. I'll just move on to somebody else. Yeah.
And I think that's the thing we want to, I want to stop, doing and promoting is this, we talked about the faking it till you make it and how that's a bunch of horse shit. Just to be who you are. And same thing, that the word that you were using before we hear pretend, right? Pretending to be, playing hard to get and pretending to be not interested. That's the thing. You're not being your authentic self at that point. Right. And I feel like you can still have a lot of, a lot of fun and tension together, positive emotional tension, to kind of pull one from Dr. Glover here in one of his courses, and do that, while you're together. You don't need to lose those feelings. You can still cultivate those feelings of enjoyment and fun and tension together, and not necessarily, pretending that you aren't interested when you are. And I think you're wasting your time doing that.
Yeah. 100%. Playing games is, you start a relationship out playing games, and you're going to find yourself playing games for the whole thing. And that does not,
that's good.
Not usually go well.
No, you're right. Because whatever brings you in, whatever attracts you, you need to keep that going throughout the whole relationship. And one of my ex's dads basically had said that one time is, whatever you're leading with, whatever you're attracting them with, you need to maintain. So if that's, a part of your body, and a lot of times on these dating profiles, these girls are, or guys are, basically just, showing off like skimpy stuff. And that's what's bringing people in, then you're going to need to maintain that throughout the whole relationship.
Right, exactly.
Versus, something else and, something that you said, something you talk about, something you have in common. So I've been a lot more of a fan of, trying to do some of these social groups like these run clubs and meet people that way and just being open to talking to people and getting to know people, in person, because at least you've got that one element then in common. And so that's something that's important to both people. And then everything else above and beyond that is bonus.
Yeah, you definitely, you do run a risk of, if you're a guy or a gal essentially trading off of your body or your wealth or your, celebrity status, whatever it is.
Yeah.
If that's the thing you're using to attract people, then, the second that thing dips or goes away, then the people that you attracted with that thing are probably going to go away too.
Yeah, that's a great point about the whole money thing. A lot of guys think you need to be rich to, and you know what? The quality of the woman that you're attracting, can we say gold digger, right? There's a reason there's a song about it.
And there's nothing wrong with having money, and there's nothing wrong with appreciating a partner that can provide for themselves and for you. But, if flashing money and throwing money around is the tool that you're using to get people, then you're going to get people that are only around as long as the money is. And same with your body. I mean, if I use my, if I get my 6-pack and immediately, take all new profile pictures for my dating apps and it's showing off my abs, then, the second that, I go out with somebody and I've packed on 5 pounds and you can't see them anymore, they may not be as interested as they were at the beginning. So just be careful. Yep. Be careful trading on anything except your personality and your behaviors, because anything else is fleeting.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
All right. So that chapter is in the books, and that was about noticing the body language and nonverbal communication of women. In the next chapter, we're going to cover how your body language can be more attractive and what you can do to behave in a way and communicate non-verbally in ways that make you, look as good as you possibly can. And so we'll get into that next week.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to it.
I got to throw in another quick plug for the amazing shirts that I buy from jiffyshirts.com. The next level, I believe it's the 6210 model, that are literally like $5 or $6, and you could buy a ton of them. And if you spend $59, you get free shipping. And they are just made for dudes to look as good as you can possibly look in a t-shirt, and they're dirt cheap and they last forever. And I get no money from them. We don't have an affiliate link, nothing. But I just since the gut keeps getting smaller as I'm doing this diet, I got a fresh batch of 10 shirts for $60, and wow. I'm real happy with the way that they look and the way that they feel. So I would say if you guys like cheap clothes that will look good on you, regardless of your body type, Next Level is the brand. JiffyShirts.com is the store. And I like the cotton poly blends. They feel the best. I think, like I said, the crew necks, I think, are 6210. I think that's the model number. But really anything from Next Level that is a tank, a crew, a V-neck, they are awesome, and they are cheap, which I love.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks. I might order some more for myself today based on that plug.
I'm probably just, you and I are going to KetoCon. Austin's going to be hot. I'm not completely out there to, it's not like we're going to Podcast Movement where I'm trying to make industry contacts. I'm going mostly for fun. So I'm going to be dressing comfortable. So that's probably going to be shorts and t-shirts the whole time I'm out there. Just the fact that I just got a new bundle of them and they pack super good. The cotton poly ones don't seem to wrinkle when you throw them in a suitcase. And I'm going to be super comfortable in Austin in 2 weeks, 3 weeks? It's coming up. And so that's probably, Austin is 13 days. Holy cow.
Yeah, we're getting there soon.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to being comfortable while I'm out there. So I will be wearing a lot of t-shirts.
Sounds great.
All right, man. I'll chat with you again soon.
All right, man. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.